You've been told that reality exists independently of you, that the world operates according to fixed laws while you merely observe from the sidelines, powerless to influence the fundamental nature of what is. But what if I told you that one of the most famous experiments in quantum physics proves the exact opposite? What if the very act of your observation doesn't just witness reality, but literally creates it? Right now, as you watch this, you are not a passive observer of some pre-existing truth. You are an active participant in the continuous creation of reality itself. And the most beautiful part? Science has proven this beyond any shadow of doubt. This is the story of how consciousness and quantum mechanics collide in the most elegant dance of creation you've ever witnessed. This is the story of how you, simply by observing, shape the very fabric of existence. Let me take you on a journey that will forever change how you see your role in this universe. Imagine you're standing in a laboratory, looking at the most simple experimental setup you can imagine. A light source, a barrier with 2 slits cut into it, and a screen on the other side to catch whatever passes through. Nothing complex, nothing mystical. Just photons of light moving through space. Now here's what happens when no one is watching, when no measurement is being made, when consciousness is not engaged in the act of observation. The photons behave like waves. They pass through both slits simultaneously, creating an interference pattern on the screen behind. Beautiful, undulating bands of light and dark that could only exist if the photons were in multiple places at once, interfering with themselves. This is the quantum realm in its natural state. Pure potential, infinite possibility. The photon exists in what physicists call superposition, a state where it is literally everywhere and nowhere until something fundamentally changes the equation. If this understanding is already shifting something in your awareness, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to stay connected to these quantum consciousness explorations that reveal your true creative power. But here's where everything shifts. Here's where the universe reveals its most profound secret. The moment you decide to observe which slit the photon goes through, the instant you place a detector to measure its path, something miraculous happens. The wave function collapses. The photon chooses. It goes through one slit or the other, never both. The interference pattern disappears. Reality crystallizes into a single, definite outcome. You didn't touch the photon. You didn't physically interfere with its path. You simply observed. And in that act of observation, you collapsed infinite potential into concrete reality. Let that sink in. Let that land in your body. Feel the weight of what this means. The universe operates not as a collection of predetermined objects moving through space, but as a field of infinite possibility that only becomes definite when consciousness engages with it. Your observation doesn't just witness reality, it chooses which reality gets to exist. This isn't metaphor. This isn't philosophy. This is the foundation of quantum mechanics, verified in laboratories around the world for over a century. The observer effect is not some fringe theory. It's the cornerstone of how reality actually works. But most people hear about this experiment and think it applies only to the microscopic world. They imagine that somehow, when things get big enough, classical physics takes over, and this magical relationship between consciousness and reality disappears. They've been told that quantum effects don't scale up to human experience. But here's what no one tells you. The line between quantum and classical doesn't exist the way you think it does. The observer effect isn't limited to photons in a laboratory. It's the fundamental mechanism by which all reality emerges from the quantum field. Every moment, you are standing at the quantum double slit of existence. Every moment, infinite possibilities exist in superposition around you. And every moment, your observation, your attention, your awareness, your consciousness is collapsing specific potentials into the reality you experience. Think about this in your own life. How many times have you noticed that what you pay attention to seems to expand? How many times have you focused on a problem only to see it grow, or focused on a possibility only to watch it manifest? This isn't coincidence. This is the observer effect operating at the scale of human experience. When you observe lack, you collapse the quantum field into experiences of scarcity. When you observe abundance, you collapse it into experiences of plenty. When you observe fear, you create realities that confirm your fears. When you observe love, you generate experiences that reflect that frequency. Your consciousness isn't separate from the quantum field. It is the mechanism by which the field determines what becomes real. But here's where it gets even more profound. The double-slit experiment reveals something that changes everything about how we understand causality itself. It shows us that the act of observation can influence events retroactively. In what's called the delayed choice quantum eraser experiment, scientists have proven that the decision to observe can affect the behavior of photons even after they've already passed through the slits. The choice to measure, made after the photon has traveled its path, somehow reaches back in time and influences whether the photon behaved as a wave or a particle. This shatters our linear understanding of cause and effect. It suggests that consciousness exists outside of time as we normally understand it. Your present moment awareness isn't just shaping your future, it's reaching back and reshaping your past. Every time you change your observation, you're not just creating new possibilities going forward. You're collapsing past probabilities into new configurations. You're literally rewriting the quantum history that led to this moment. This is why healing is possible. This is why transformation is possible. This is why nothing in your life is fixed or permanent. Because consciousness, operating through the observer effect, has the power to reach into the quantum field and reshape the very foundations of experience. Pause with that. Breathe into this understanding. Feel how it changes your relationship to everything you thought was solid and unchangeable. Now let's go deeper into what this means for how you live, because understanding the observer effect intellectually is one thing. Embodying it as a lived reality is something else entirely. Most people move through life in a state of unconscious observation. They observe their problems, their limitations, their fears, their past patterns, and wonder why these things keep showing up. They don't realize that their observation is the very thing calling these experiences into being. But when you understand that you are the observer who collapses the quantum field into reality, everything changes. You begin to take responsibility not just for your actions, but for the quality of your attention itself. You start to notice, what am I observing right now? What possibilities am I collapsing with my awareness? What reality am I creating through the focus of my consciousness? This isn't about positive thinking or pretending problems don't exist. This is about recognizing that your observation is an active force in the universe. It's about understanding that where you place your attention determines which version of reality gets to emerge from the infinite field of potential. I'm curious, have you ever noticed moments in your life where shifting your attention seemed to change what manifested around you? Share that experience in the comments below. Your insight might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. When you truly embody this understanding, you stop being a victim of circumstance and start being a conscious creator of experience. You realize that every moment offers you the choice of what to observe, what to collapse from the quantum field, what to call into existence through your awareness. This is the practical application of quantum mechanics to human consciousness. This is how you begin to work with the universe instead of against it. But here's what makes this even more powerful. The observer effect isn't just individual, it's collective. When groups of people observe the same possibility, when communities focus their attention on the same potential, the collapse becomes exponentially more powerful. This is why meditation groups can influence crime rates in cities. This is why collective prayers and intentions can shift the trajectory of world events. This is why the more people who understand and embody these principles, the more our entire reality begins to shift toward higher possibilities. We are not separate observers, each creating our own isolated reality. We are part of a collective consciousness that is continuously observing and collapsing the field of infinite potential into the shared reality we all experience. And this brings us to perhaps the most profound implication of the double-slit experiment. It reveals that separation is an illusion. The observer and the observed are not separate entities. They are aspects of a single unified field of consciousness, expressing itself through the dance of observation and collapse. You are not a separate being observing an external reality. You are the field of consciousness knowing itself through the experience of observation. You are the universe becoming aware of itself through your unique perspective. This understanding dissolves the artificial boundary between self and world, between inner and outer, between consciousness and matter. It reveals that all of existence is consciousness exploring itself through infinite forms of observation and experience. Take a moment and comment below with this phrase: I am the observer who shapes reality through awareness. Let this be your signal to the quantum field that you are ready to step into conscious creation. When you declare this, you're not just stating a belief. You're collapsing the quantum field into a reality where you understand your power. You're choosing to observe yourself as a conscious creator rather than a passive victim. You're activating the observer effect in service of your highest potential. Now let's explore how to practically work with this understanding, because knowing you're the observer is one thing. Learning to observe consciously is the art that transforms your entire experience. The first step is developing what I call quantum awareness, the ability to notice what you're observing moment by moment. Most people are unconscious observers, automatically focusing on whatever grabs their attention. But conscious observers choose their focus deliberately. Start paying attention to your attention. Notice where your awareness goes throughout the day. Are you observing problems or possibilities? Are you collapsing the field into experiences of limitation or expansion? Are you witnessing fear or love? This isn't about judging yourself. It's about becoming aware of the creative power of your observation so you can use it consciously. The second step is learning to observe possibilities that don't yet exist in your current reality. This is where most people get stuck. They can only observe what's already manifested, which keeps them locked in repeating patterns. But the quantum field contains infinite possibilities beyond what's currently visible. Learning to observe these unseen potentials is how you begin to collapse new realities into existence. This requires what I call quantum vision, the ability to see beyond the apparent limitations of your current situation and observe the possibilities that exist in the field of potential. It's the skill of witnessing what wants to emerge rather than what already exists. When you develop this quantum vision, you start observing your life from the perspective of possibility rather than limitation. You begin to see potential where others see problems. You start witnessing opportunities where others see obstacles. The third step is understanding that observation is not passive. It's an active engagement with the field of consciousness. When you observe consciously, you're not just looking at something, you're participating in its creation. This means bringing your full presence to the act of observation. It means observing with intention, with clarity, with love. It means understanding that the quality of your observation directly influences the quality of what gets created. When you observe with fear, you collapse fearful possibilities. When you observe with love, you collapse loving possibilities. When you observe with doubt, you create uncertain realities. When you observe with trust, you manifest stable foundations. The quality of your observation is the quality of your creation. Now here's where this gets really practical. You can use the understanding of the observer effect to transform any area of your life. Whether it's relationships, career, health, or spiritual growth, the same principles apply. Instead of observing what's wrong in your relationships, start observing the love that's trying to emerge. Instead of focusing on career limitations, observe the possibilities that exist in the field of potential. Instead of witnessing illness, observe the health that wants to manifest. This isn't denial. This is conscious creation. This is working with the fundamental mechanics of how reality operates. But here's the crucial part. You have to observe from a place of genuine possibility, not from a place of desperate wanting. The quantum field responds to the authenticity of your observation, not to the intensity of your desire. When you observe from desperation, you're actually observing lack, and that's what gets created. When you observe from genuine possibility, you're witnessing abundance, and that's what manifests. This is why meditation and inner work are so important. They clear the static from your observation. They help you see clearly rather than through the filters of fear, doubt, and limitation. The clearer your observation, the more precisely you can collapse the quantum field into the reality you truly want to experience. As we go deeper into this understanding, it becomes clear that the observer effect isn't just a scientific phenomenon, it's a spiritual technology. It's the mechanism by which consciousness creates reality at every level of existence. Every spiritual tradition has pointed to this truth in its own way. The power of prayer, the effectiveness of meditation, the magic of intention, all of these work through the observer effect. They work by focusing consciousness in ways that collapse the quantum field into higher possibilities. But what makes our time unique is that we now have scientific validation for what mystics have always known. We can understand not just that consciousness creates reality, but how it does so. We can work with the observer effect consciously and deliberately. This is the integration of science and spirituality. This is the marriage of quantum mechanics and consciousness studies. This is the birth of a new way of being human. When you understand that you are the observer who shapes reality through awareness, you stop being a victim of circumstance and start being a conscious participant in the creation of existence itself. But this understanding comes with responsibility. When you know you're shaping reality through observation, you can no longer blame external circumstances for your experience. You have to take ownership of the creative power of your consciousness. This is both liberating and challenging. It's liberating because it means you're never powerless. No matter what your circumstances, you always have the ability to observe differently and thereby create differently. It's challenging because it requires you to examine the unconscious patterns of observation that have been creating your current reality. It requires you to take responsibility for the quality of your awareness. But this is the path of conscious evolution. This is how human beings grow into their full potential as conscious creators working in partnership with the universe. If this understanding is touching something deep in you, if it's awakening a recognition of your true power as a conscious observer, then I invite you to subscribe not just to this channel, but to this frequency. Subscribe to the community of conscious creators who understand that we are not separate from the reality we experience. We are the awareness through which reality comes into being. Now let's explore what happens when you begin to embody this understanding consistently. Because the real transformation doesn't happen when you understand the observer effect intellectually. It happens when you begin to live as a conscious observer in every moment. Living as a conscious observer means bringing awareness to the act of observation itself. It means noticing what you're focusing on and choosing your focus deliberately. It means understanding that every moment offers you the opportunity to collapse the quantum field into higher possibilities. This is a practice, not a theory. It's something you develop through consistent attention to the quality of your awareness. One of the most profound aspects of this practice is learning to observe the observer. Who is the one who observes? What is the nature of the awareness that collapses the quantum field into reality? When you investigate this deeply, you discover that the observer is not your personality, not your thoughts, not your emotions. The observer is the pure awareness that witnesses all experience without being limited by any of it. This pure awareness is not personal. It's the universal consciousness expressing itself through your unique perspective. It's the quantum field becoming aware of itself through your individual observation. Recognizing this dissolves the illusion of separation between observer and observed. You realize that you are not separate from the reality you're observing. You are the consciousness through which that reality knows itself. This understanding transforms everything. When you know yourself as the universal consciousness expressing through individual awareness, you stop trying to manipulate reality from the outside. Instead, you learn to align with the creative intelligence that is always seeking to express itself through higher possibilities. You begin to trust the process. You begin to understand that the same consciousness that created the stars and planets is the consciousness that observes through your eyes. You begin to relax into the flow of creation rather than struggling against it. This is the deepest level of the observer effect. It's not just about using your observation to create what you want. It's about recognizing that what you truly are is the creative force of the universe itself, observing and creating through the instrument of your individual awareness. When you embody this understanding, something magical happens. You stop efforting and start flowing. You stop trying to control outcomes and start trusting the intelligence that operates through you. You stop being a separate self, trying to manipulate reality, and start being the expression of reality, knowing itself. This is the ultimate freedom. This is the liberation that comes from understanding your true nature as the observer who shapes reality through awareness. But even this understanding has practical implications. When you know yourself as universal consciousness expressing through individual awareness, you begin to observe from that level of identity. You stop observing from the perspective of limitation and start observing from the perspective of infinite possibility. This shift in the level of observation creates a corresponding shift in what gets collapsed from the quantum field. Instead of creating from the level of personality and ego, you start creating from the level of pure consciousness. Instead of manifesting from fear and desire, you start manifesting from love and wisdom. The realities you create become more harmonious, more aligned with the deeper intelligence of the universe. You stop creating through struggle and start creating through flow. You stop manifesting through force and start manifesting through alignment. This is the art of conscious creation. This is how you work with the observer effect at the deepest level. Now, as we explore even deeper layers of this understanding, I want to address something crucial. Understanding the observer effect can sometimes create a sense of overwhelming responsibility. If you're creating your reality through observation, does that mean everything that happens to you is your fault? This is where we need to understand the difference between responsibility and blame. Taking responsibility for your creative power doesn't mean blaming yourself for everything that happens. It means recognizing that you always have the power to choose your response, to choose your observation, to choose what you collapse from the quantum field going forward. The past is a pattern that was created through previous observations. The future is a possibility that can be created through present observation. The power is always in this moment, in this choice, in this opportunity to observe consciously. You are not responsible for everything that has happened to you, but you are responsible for how you choose to observe and respond to what has happened. You are responsible for the quality of awareness you bring to this moment. You are responsible for the possibilities you choose to collapse from the quantum field. This understanding brings great freedom. It means that no matter what your past, no matter what your current circumstances, you always have the power to observe differently and thereby create differently. The observer effect is not a burden of responsibility. It's a gift of creative power. It's the universe's way of saying, you are not powerless. You are not separate from creation. You are the creative force itself, expressing through the instrument of your awareness. But let's go even deeper into the mechanics of how this works. Because when you truly understand the quantum nature of observation, you begin to see that reality is far more fluid and malleable than you ever imagined. Think about the nature of time itself. In our everyday experience, we think of time as linear, past, present, future flowing in a straight line. But quantum mechanics reveals that time is more like a field of possibilities, where past, present, and future exist simultaneously in superposition until consciousness observes them into a specific sequence. This is why the delayed choice quantum eraser experiment is so revolutionary. It shows that your present observation can literally reach back and change the quantum history that led to this moment. The decision you make right now about what to observe doesn't just affect your future, it reorganizes your past. Every time you shift your observation, you're not just creating new possibilities going forward. You're collapsing past probabilities into new configurations. You're literally rewriting the quantum story of how you got here. This is profound beyond measure. It means that healing isn't just about creating a better future. It's about reaching back into the quantum field and reshaping the very foundations of your experience. When you observe yourself as whole rather than broken, you're not just creating future wholeness. You're collapsing the quantum field into a timeline where the seeds of that wholeness were always present. This is why sudden, miraculous transformations are possible. This is why people can have instantaneous healings, breakthrough insights, and life-changing realizations. Because consciousness, operating through the observer effect, can reach into the quantum field and reorganize reality at the most fundamental level. Let me share with you a more advanced understanding of how this works. When you observe consciously, you're not just focusing your individual awareness. You're aligning with what quantum physicists call the universal wave function. the field of infinite possibility that underlies all existence. This universal wave function contains every possible reality simultaneously, every potential outcome, every possible life path, every conceivable experience exists in superposition within this field. Your individual observation is the mechanism by which specific possibilities get selected and collapsed into manifest reality. But here's what makes this even more extraordinary. The universal wave function is not random. It has an inherent bias toward higher complexity, greater coherence, and more beautiful expressions of consciousness. When you align your observation with this natural tendency, you're not fighting against the universe. You're flowing with its deepest creative impulse. This is why observing from love creates more beautiful realities than observing from fear. This is why focusing on possibilities rather than problems generates more harmonious outcomes. This is why consciousness naturally seeks to express itself through higher forms of order and beauty. When you understand this, you begin to see that conscious observation is not just a personal practice, it's a cosmic responsibility. Every time you choose to observe consciously, you're participating in the universe's natural evolution toward greater complexity and beauty. You're not just creating your individual reality. You're contributing to the collective evolution of consciousness itself. Your observation matters not just for your own experience, but for the entire unfolding of existence. This brings us to one of the most profound implications of the observer effect: the understanding that individual consciousness and universal consciousness are not separate phenomena. They are different scales of the same creative process. When you observe as an individual, you're expressing the universal creative force through your unique perspective. When groups observe collectively, they're amplifying that creative force exponentially. When humanity as a whole begins to observe consciously, we become capable of transforming reality at planetary scales. This is why the shift in consciousness happening on Earth right now is so significant. As more people understand their role as conscious observers, the collective power to shape reality multiplies dramatically. We're not just individuals learning to create better personal lives. We're a species learning to consciously participate in the evolution of the planet itself. Every person who awakens to their power as a conscious observer adds to the collective field of possibility. Every individual who learns to observe from love rather than fear contributes to the global shift toward higher consciousness. Every human being who understands their role in the quantum creation of reality becomes part of the solution to humanity's greatest challenges. This is the true significance of the double-slit experiment. It's not just revealing the nature of photons and electrons. It's revealing the nature of consciousness itself as the fundamental creative force in the universe. Now, let's explore what happens when you begin to work with the observer effect at quantum levels throughout your day. Because the real transformation comes not from understanding this intellectually, but from embodying it as a living practice. Start with your morning consciousness. The moment you wake up, you're already observing. But what are you observing? Are you focusing on problems you need to solve, challenges you need to face, limitations you need to overcome? Or are you observing possibilities, opportunities, potentials that want to emerge? The quality of your morning observation sets the quantum foundation for your entire day. When you wake up and immediately observe lack, struggle, or resistance, you're collapsing the quantum field into a day filled with those experiences. When you wake up and observe abundance, flow, and alignment, you're creating a completely different quantum foundation. This isn't about forcing positive thoughts or denying challenges. This is about recognizing that your first conscious observations of the day are literally creating the energetic template from which your experiences will emerge. Develop the practice of conscious morning observation. Before you get out of bed, before you check your phone, before you engage with the demands of the day, take a moment to consciously observe the field of possibility around you. Ask yourself, what wants to emerge today? What possibilities are seeking expression through my experience? Allow your awareness to rest in the space of pure potential before it collapses into specific plans and concerns. This is quantum meditation, working with consciousness at the level where reality is still fluid, still malleable, still open to infinite possibility. As you move through your day, continue to practice quantum observation. Notice when you're observing from habit versus when you're observing from conscious choice. Notice when you're collapsing the field into repetitive patterns versus when you're allowing new possibilities to emerge. This is particularly important in your relationships. Every interaction with another person is a quantum moment where infinite possibilities exist for how that relationship could unfold. Your observation of that person, whether you see them as difficult or wonderful, limited or unlimited, separate from you or connected to you, directly influences what gets created in the space between you. When you observe others from their highest potential rather than their current limitations, you're not just being kind or optimistic. You're using the observer effect to collapse the quantum field into realities where that potential can actually manifest. This is the quantum mechanics of love. This is how consciousness creates healing in relationships. This is why holding space for someone's transformation is so powerful. Because your observation of their possibility helps collapse the field into realities where that possibility can emerge. The same principle applies to your relationship with yourself. Every moment you're observing yourself from some perspective. Are you witnessing yourself as limited or unlimited, as broken or whole, as separate from the universe or as an expression of it? Your self-observation is perhaps the most powerful creative force in your life. It's the lens through which all other possibilities get filtered. When you observe yourself as a victim, you create victim experiences. When you observe yourself as a creator, you create creator experiences. When you observe yourself as consciousness itself, you create experiences that reflect that level of identity. This is why inner work is so important. Not because you need to fix yourself, but because you need to clean the lens of self-observation so you can see and create from your highest potential. Meditation, therapy, spiritual practice, all of these are ways of refining the quality of your self-observation. They're technologies for clearing the static from your consciousness so you can observe and create more clearly. But here's something most people don't understand. The observer effect works most powerfully when you're not trying to control outcomes. When you observe with attachment to specific results, you're actually limiting the field of possibility. When you observe with open curiosity about what wants to emerge, you allow the quantum field to surprise you with outcomes more beautiful than you could have imagined. This is the paradox of conscious creation. The more you try to force specific outcomes, the more you limit what's possible. The more you learn to observe with trust in the intelligence of the universe, the more extraordinary your creations become. This requires developing what I call quantum faith. Not faith in a particular outcome, but faith in the process of conscious creation itself. Faith that when you observe from your highest understanding, the universe will respond with opportunities and experiences that serve your growth and the good of all. This quantum faith isn't passive. It's an active alignment with the creative intelligence that operates through you. It's the understanding that you don't have to figure out how things will work out. You just have to maintain the quality of observation that allows the highest possibilities to emerge. When you develop this quantum faith, something beautiful happens. You stop efforting and start flowing. You stop trying to control the universe and start dancing with it. You stop being a separate self trying to manipulate reality and start being the expression of reality, creating through conscious choice. This is the ultimate freedom that comes from understanding the observer effect. Not the freedom to control everything, but the freedom to participate consciously in the eternal dance of creation itself. As you practice working with the observer effect throughout your day, you'll begin to notice that reality becomes more responsive to your consciousness. Synchronicities increase. Opportunities align. The right people show up at the right time. Resources appear when you need them. This isn't magic, it's quantum mechanics. When you observe consciously, you're literally tuning into the frequencies of possibility that match your awareness. You're collapsing the quantum field into realities that reflect your level of consciousness. The more coherent your observation, the more coherent your reality becomes. The more aligned your awareness, the more aligned your experiences become. The more you observe from love, the more love shows up in your life. This is the practical application of quantum physics to human experience. This is how you begin to live as a conscious creator, rather than an unconscious victim of circumstance. What breakthrough have you experienced when you started observing differently? Drop a comment sharing how changing your awareness transformed a situation in your life. These stories inspire and elevate our entire community. As we prepare to integrate this understanding, I want to offer you a practice that will help you embody the observer effect in your daily life. Several times throughout each day, pause and ask yourself, what am I observing right now? What possibility am I collapsing with my awareness? What reality am I creating through my attention? Don't judge what you discover. Simply notice. Simply become aware of the creative power of your observation. Then, if you choose, consciously shift your observation. Choose to focus on possibilities that align with your highest potential. Choose to collapse the quantum field into experiences that serve your growth and the good of all. This is the practice of conscious observation. This is how you begin to work with the universe as a conscious creator rather than unconscious victim. Remember, you are not learning to create reality. You are learning to create consciously. You have always been shaping reality through observation. Now you're simply becoming aware of this power so you can use it deliberately. The double-slit experiment has shown us that consciousness and reality are not separate. They are aspects of a single, unified field of creative potential. You are not observing reality from the outside. You are the consciousness through which reality observes itself. This changes everything. This transforms your relationship to existence itself. This reveals your true nature as a conscious creator working in partnership with the infinite intelligence of the universe. Take a moment right now to drop one word in the comments that captures the energy of what you're choosing to create through your observation. Let this be your energetic signature to the quantum field. Let this be your declaration of conscious creation. Whether you write love, abundance, peace, joy, healing, or any other word that represents your highest possibility, know that this act of declaration is itself an observation that collapses the quantum field into greater alignment with that potential. This is not just a comment. This is a quantum choice. This is a conscious collapse of infinite possibility into the specific reality you choose to experience. As we come to the close of our exploration, I want to leave you with this. The double-slit experiment is not just a scientific discovery. It's a mirror reflecting back to you your true nature as the observer who shapes reality through awareness. Every moment, you stand at the quantum double-slit of existence. Every moment, infinite possibilities exist in superposition around you. Every moment, your observation chooses which possibility becomes real. This is your power. This is your responsibility. This is your gift to the universe. When you understand this deeply, when you embody this truth, when you live as a conscious observer, you become part of the solution to humanity's greatest challenges. You become part of the collective consciousness that is observing and creating a more beautiful world. The more of us who understand and embody this truth, the more our collective observation collapses the quantum field into realities of love, peace, abundance, and harmony. The more of us who take responsibility for the creative power of our awareness, the more the world reflects that higher consciousness. This is not just personal transformation. This is evolutionary transformation. This is the birth of a new way of being human. So subscribe not just to stay connected, but to stay coherent with this understanding. Subscribe to remain aligned with the frequency of conscious creation. Subscribe to be part of the community of observers who understand that we are not separate from the reality we experience. We are the awareness through which reality comes into being. And know this: every time you choose to observe consciously, every time you collapse the quantum field into higher possibilities, every time you remember your true nature as the observer who shapes reality through awareness, you are contributing to the elevation of consciousness itself. You are not just changing your own life, you are participating in the transformation of existence itself. The universe is not happening to you. You are not happening to the universe. You and the universe are one consciousness, observing and creating through the eternal dance of awareness and possibility. This is the truth the double-slit experiment reveals. This is the gift quantum mechanics offers to human consciousness. This is the understanding that changes everything. You are the observer. You shape reality through awareness. You are the consciousness through which the universe knows itself. Consider watching this again tomorrow morning to anchor these quantum principles into your daily awareness. And if someone in your life is ready for this understanding, sharing this with them creates an energetic ripple that amplifies both your comprehension and their awakening. Consciousness expanding consciousness through the very act of generous sharing. Now go forth and create consciously. The quantum field is waiting for your observation. The deeper you understand your role as the conscious observer, the more you'll want to explore how consciousness itself operates beyond the thinking mind. In Master the Quantum Field and Watch Reality Respond, we dive into the advanced mechanics of how awareness shapes the field and the specific practices that accelerate your creative power.